our webinar today. I'm Lana Shope, and I serve as the project director for the CARES project here at the partnership. And we have a new addition to our team. Ashley Freebert is our senior associate, so she will be joining us to help address our goals that we have identified in our grant application for the CARES project. One of those goals is to be able to tell our story being our response to the pandemic. And we have created tools that we'll be sharing with you today to make it easier for you to tell your story, because you told us how busy you are, how challenging these times are. So we've created some templates to make your job easier. So great. And we're going to have a wonderful webinar today. I'm so excited to share tools with all of you and for you to learn how to use them and make it possible for you to be a part of telling the community action story. So about community action, we have this thing called of community action, which is really a guide for us, an opportunity for us to think about and reflect on what it is we're supposed to be doing. We are embodying spirit of hope, improving communities, and making America a better place to live. We care about the entire community, and we are dedicated to helping people help themselves and each other. What a great framing as we prepare to move into our webinar. I am very happy to do a very brief introduction of our two speakers. If you want to advance the slide. We have with us today Anna and Laura, who are staff at, I don't know if the slide is advancing, Denise? They are our partners at Strategic America, and we have been working with them in designing these tools. So I'm going to turn it over to Laura, and she will take us through the process. Thanks to both of you for being a part of this project.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Lana. It's really a privilege to be here today. As Lana said, I'm with Strategic America. My name is Laura Vandenbosch, and I have the privilege of serving as the Executive Director of Strategic Communications. With me today is Anna Van Wardhuizen, my colleague, who's a communications specialist and our lead writer. And we really appreciate the opportunity to be with you today to showcase some of the exciting new tools we now have available for you to customize to help tell your CAA stories in your communities. And we'll start with just a brief bit of background. As Lana mentioned, NCAP engaged our Strategic America team to help craft and share stories of the really incredible work being done at the CAAs during the pandemic. Our agency, Strategic America, is an integrated marketing communications agency in Central Iowa that serves clients across North America. We specialize in a lot of different categories, but one of our absolute favorites as a strategic communications team is nonprofit work. So this project is incredibly dear to us. We started working with NCAP in January of this year to help create communication tools that could be used both on a national and local level, highlighting that work related to the pandemic and supported by CARES Act funds. We've completed several templates to date, and we're going to continue to create several more as your great stories continue to roll in to call attention to those additional areas where CAAs have been helping families recover from the economic and health impacts of the pandemic. Our goals for this project are really to inspire and educate others in the national network by sharing stories of how the CAAs are making a difference for communities and families at the local level during the pandemic, and encouraging those local use of resources. For future policy development and advocacy efforts, we want to build and share a robust bank of success stories and resources for use nationally and for customization locally. And most simply, we want to highlight your success stories and provide those user-friendly tools for storytelling across multiple media channels. A longer-term goal is to earn national, regional, and local media placements of these incredible stories to increase awareness of the partnership and also build advocacy support for policymakers, influencers, and the general public. So our scope of work briefly includes creating templates we'll go through today, including email, social media, and a one-pager for web and print, drafting 12 feature stories, and then the media relations component I mentioned. So we're very delighted to be with you today, and I'm now going to turn the next section over to my colleague, Anna.
Thank you, Laura. As she mentioned, my name is Anna Van Wardhuizen. I'm a communication specialist at Strategic America, and I have also been helping work on these templates. So what you'll see in front of you on the screen is what a completed story template looks like. So this is the national version. That means that there's just the NCAP logo at the top, but you'll see on the next slide that we've created a version where your agency logo can go. And basically, this template is a 2-page document that provides background on a number of different categories, which actually I should go back, apologies. These are the communication categories that we have decided to work on with guidance from NCAP. They laid out all of the tremendous work that has been happening over the course of the pandemic and kind of broke it down into categories that would make sense for communication for the largest number of agencies. So as you can see, we have 4 complete. We actually have a 5th one that is going through review right now. So we have talked about meal distribution, food distribution, small business support, and then vaccine efforts, which is obviously very relevant right now. And then on the side of to be completed, we're going to talk about water and utility support, which we've heard a lot about, and we know how important that is. And then moving equity forward, especially during the pandemic, childcare for essential workers and to help people get back to work. And then technology adaptations. We know a lot of agencies have done tremendous work to go ahead and switch to online as the pandemic made it more difficult to meet in person. We're also going to talk about rental assistance, which is obviously very important as the pandemic has interrupted a lot of work schedules, eliminated a lot of work, and just made it all over more difficult for people to cover rent. And then once those are all done, we'll still have 3 additional topics that we haven't yet determined, but there will be a total of 12. So now I can move forward. Back to the story template. So each of these talks about one of those 12 categories. The one on the screen is talking about meal distribution. So you'll see this when you have the template, but if you could zoom in, the first part talks about the network and how CAAs do all kinds of different work and how you stepped up and knew that there was great need during the pandemic, even greater than you'd faced before, and how it introduces how these different categories have been covered. So then it talks a little bit about, what is the issue for food insecurity? Not everybody knows what that is. So just a little background explanation and how COVID has affected these issues. So food insecurity has obviously increased quite a bit since the pandemic started. And so that just gives a little background there. Then it goes into, on that second page, the stories from the individual agencies. So on the template for national, there is 2 stories per tablet, or usually per template. Sometimes we can fit 3. But we really try to get to the core of, why is this important? Why is it impressive? Because, all of the work that's been happening over the pandemic has been extremely impressive. So, and then there's also room for images, and then those quotes in pink are pull quotes that you can highlight some of the things that are happening. So now I'm going to show you what the template will look like when you are working with it. So it turns out PowerPoint is an excellent tool for creating templates, and National wanted all the CAAs to have an easy way to take your own stories and share them out on your websites with people you might meet, people who get materials from you. So this is a really easy way of doing that. You'll see here, this is your version, and as you're doing it in PowerPoint, it will look like slides like this, but when you export it, it will just print as a PDF. I will show you that in a little bit. But basically, when we're looking at it up here, you'll see these boxes that have images, that little image icon in the middle. When you click on those, it will pull up your files, and you can select up here your logo to go right next to the community action logo. And then if you click on either of these two gray boxes here, then you can insert your own photos that are relevant to the topic or relevant to the programs that you've been administering during the pandemic. This front part will keep the title the same. You'll have access to all that background information I just talked about the issue and how COVID has affected the issue. And there's some sources in there. And then here on the back, where this arrow is, that is where you'll be able to start telling your story. So there's information on, how large the text should be, what should be bold, what should not be bold. All of that is in there. And then right here, this last little paragraph is just information on the road ahead, how CAAs will continue to work to create a more equitable society and continue to provide for people no matter the challenges that they face. So that can stay, but the other information here can change, and you have the whole rest of this to write your story, or if you have two, there's information on how to format that as well. And then you'll see here by this arrow, this is where you can create your own pull quotes. So that's kind of just a place where you can have visual interest to a quote. I know that a lot of these stories are emotional, so there are probably some really good quotes that describe how people have felt. Or it could just be quotes about how your team has felt or how they've handled things, really whatever you think is best to tell your story. When you put a quote in there, this moves as its own box. So just because it shows up in this first column does not mean that it has to stay in the first column. You just move that text around until it fits where in the story that you should have a quote. So then down here, like I said, you can add another photo. And then here in the bottom, it's a little hard to see, but you'll be able to put in your phone number, your website, and then we would like communityactionpartnership.com to stay there as well. And then these little social media icons are movable or delete. You can delete them as well. So if you don't have all four of them, you just leave the ones that you do have. So that is what that looks like. And now I'm going to move on to how you save your story and have it just be a PDF and just save correctly. So when I am working on a Mac, but it should be the same no matter what system you're on. So when you are in PowerPoint, you will go up to File and then down to Export. And when you hit Export, it should bring up a dialog box like this. This is obviously my Mac dialog box, but it should look really similar. And then you will name the file. And you want to make sure that the file format is a PDF. So when you export that, it will export and just be a 2-page, 8.5 by 11, I believe, PDF document. So nice and simple. Not really anything fancy on that one. All right. And then in addition to that longer story where you're able to talk through the entire story from start to finish, we also created these social media templates to make it easier to share the story on social, where you can, put a link on and then trying to get people to that larger story to get all the details. So these are also by topic and they will be available to you. Again, they have that background information I talked about where it's just really short and sweet on the social media templates, but how has hunger changed during the pandemic and how meal distribution has helped? And then there's this little headline in the middle, which will be your headline on yours, which I'll show you in a second. And then just a short, quick thing about how this story relates to increased hunger and providing for that increased hunger. So that is what they look like. This square one can be used on Facebook and Instagram. And then this more rectangular one is created for Twitter because they just have a little bit of different formatting. And you can likely use the Twitter one on LinkedIn if that is something that your agency does, because I know that can vary. And now we are back to PowerPoint. So this is what these will look like in PowerPoint. Up here, you'll see that there is a place for your logo to go. There is text there that I think says, you know, your logo goes here. That will go away once you insert a photo, so you don't have to worry about that hanging around. Like I said, here's that background and the headline for you, and then all of this space is yours. This down here is a disclaimer, and I will talk about that at the very end, but it is movable. Please do not remove it. It has to be included. So you'll have anything that's left in between, and then you can add your photo here. And then down at the bottom, there's a little information that will have your website. You can put your phone number if you would like, and then also the hashtag, I believe it is Community Action Responds, where you can talk, or where other people can look up different stories of the pandemic. So it's the same on both of them. They both have exactly the same places where you can edit things. And that is what that looks like. It's good to keep it short and sweet as much as possible. I mean, I know these are very complex stories and complex issues, but that is the recommendation. So this one is similar to Save, a little different, but it is also very easy. So when you are in PowerPoint, you will go back to that export function. It's a little hard to see on this screen. However, mine is just kind of small. So here you'll add your file name, and then in the file format, you'll want to save it as a PNG, and then it will give you two options here, and you will say save every slide. And then you just make sure that the dimensions haven't changed. So for Facebook and Instagram, it should be 1200 by 1200 pixels. And then down here in Twitter, it's 1200 by 675 pixels. So when you hit that export button, wherever your destination was that you were going to save these images, it will create a folder with the name of the presentation. And then within it, each slide will be saved as its own PNG. When they are first saved, it will just say slide 1, slide 2, slide 3, however many you have, and then you go ahead and relabel them yourself. All right, and then lastly I have to show you is this is what we envision an email template looking like. We know that all of the agencies can use different tools for this kind of email communication. So right now our solution for that is we're going to provide the email copy for you. This is National's version that has the 2 stories from the template that I showed before, but you'll still have the headline and you'll have the background information. And then down here, you can write some bulleted information for your list. We chose bullets just to make it a little more visually interesting and also allow the reader to kind of skim it and understand what's happening here. And then you can link to that larger resource if you would like. We are going to provide the copy, like I said, and we're also going to provide this graphic swoop at the top. So that will be available soon. And then 2 important notes before I pass it back to Johnny. So to make all of the templates look the same and to fit the brand standards, you'll have to use Oswald font. I believe you'll be able to download it where you'll be able to download the templates. It's really easy to use. I also have information on how to download a font if it's something you don't have, both for Macs and for Windows. So that's one thing. And then the second thing I mentioned at the bottom of the social templates, there is a box that describes how this work was funded, and that has to be included in everything. So when you receive the template, you will see that it is an unchangeable part of the template for the stories, for that 2-page document. However, on the social media templates that are in PowerPoint as well, it is movable. So we just wanted to make sure to say that that must be included. And it also should be included in email, however your format runs. And I think that is it for me. I know we're doing questions in the chat, and I think we might, I'm not sure if we're going to answer now or at the end, but either way, thank you so much for, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, we don't have in the chat yet, so it might be good just to transition, and then we'll come back to questions at the end if folks have them.
Yeah.
And I'd like to introduce Johnny. He is what I call the partnership communication guru. He is the person we go to when we need something with communication. And he is going to share with you how to access this information on the partnership's website. So Johnny, thank you so much for helping us today.
Thanks, Lana. Hi, everyone. I'm Johnny Daly. I'm the Partnerships Program Associate for Communications and Branding. I'm going to talk just briefly about how to access the story templates we've discussed today. So all the materials can be found on this landing page we've set up. That's what it looks like there on the right. And as you can see, I have the page linked here in the slides. I'm also putting the URL into the chat. I'll be posting about it in the news sections of our homepage on our website. So if you ever can't find the landing page, just go to communityactionpartnership.com and scroll down to the news section at the bottom of the homepage, and you will see it. So at the top of the page, you'll see these little anchors. Click any of the hyperlink text and it directs you to the corresponding section of the landing page. So for instance, if you click small business, it takes you to the templates promoting what agencies have done for struggling small businesses during the pandemic. So now let's take a look at what we have here on the landing page. First thing at the top is how-to guidance. Here we'll have today's webinar and slides in case you want a refresher on how to use the template Strategic America has designed for us. The slides are actually already up, and a video of this recording will be posted as soon as it's available, probably tomorrow. Next, after that, we will have our COVID response story templates, our food distribution templates, followed by our meal distribution templates, and then our small business templates. In a minute, I'll go over how we've organized the components of these sections. After the story templates, we have our vaccination graphics, which I'll get into a little later. And then finally, at the bottom of the page, you'll find a section that says coming soon. We've put this here just to let folks know we have more templates that are still being developed, as Anna mentioned earlier. These templates highlight other important community action services and programs that have helped support families during the pandemic. We don't know precisely when they'll be finished, but we'll be releasing them as they come. So you might see one collection of templates get released, and then maybe a little while after that, another bunch of templates. So please just check back, and you will, just check back to access these materials, because we don't really have a clear date when they will be released at this time. So now I'm going to go through one of the story template sections to show you how each topic is organized. This section that we're looking at is the section on our meal distribution templates. So at the top, we have our one-pager materials. These include a print-ready PDF and a customizable PowerPoint, which Anna was discussing earlier, how to customize the PowerPoint slide. You'll see these materials are hyperlinked in this section on the landing page. After that, we have our ready to post social media graphics. These are not the customizable files. These are the ready to post to social media as is. We have two designs. Each design has two formats, one for Facebook and Instagram and the others for Twitter. The square templates are formatted for Facebook and Instagram, and the landscape-oriented design is for Twitter. And beneath each image, it indicates which social media platforms the graphic is intended for. And you'll just click on the image to download the graphic. Next, we have our customizable designs for social media. You'll see that there are two PowerPoint files hyperlinked in this section of the landing page. It's the same basic design, but one PowerPoint is formatted for Facebook and Instagram, and the other one is formatted for Twitter. They're very easy to customize. I've tried it myself. I feel confident in using them, so if you do have any trouble, you can email me. I've provided my email on the last slide of my portion of this presentation. And then finally, we have our email templates. You'll see the materials are hyperlinked in this section of the landing page. We have a JPEG file, which has all the design elements, and then the two Word documents that include just the language. One Word document focuses on the national impact of community action and providing relief during the pandemic. The other Word document is customizable, which you can use to promote your local COVID response stories and data. And that's it for this section of the landing page. All the response story sections are organized this way, with the one pager, the ready to post graphics, the customizable social media templates, and then the email templates. So the last thing I want to discuss about the landing page is this collection of vaccination graphics we've included, which promote the importance of getting vaccinated for COVID. You'll see it says community action gets vaccinated and has a little huggy heart in the middle with the Band-Aid. We've provided both English and Spanish versions of the design, and for each we have PNG and EPS files. If you're posting online, like say to social media or your website, use the PNG files. The EPS files are vector files that can scale to high resolution. So if you plan on printing the design like on a poster or t-shirt, for example, you should use the EPS files. Now we'll just quickly look at some of the variations of the design. It's the same basic design, but it comes in a variety of different colors for both the English and Spanish version. Many of these have transparent backgrounds. So these graphics along the top row with the white text and the white huggy heart, these are actually all the same design. And I've just applied different colors to the background so that the text and huggy heart are visible. Just a quick side note, in the Dropbox folder, some of the thumbnail previews may appear as if there's no graphic to display or that some of the text might be missing. This is because the graphics have white text and or white huggy hearts in the design with a transparent background. Therefore, it won't show up on your screen until you download it and apply it to whatever you're using the design for. These white designs will work better over a color background, particularly a darker color. Which is what I've done here along the top row. So as you can see, the huggy heart part of the design for these top row graphics are taking on the color of the background. And that's because the opacity of the huggy heart piece of the design has been reduced. So something like 50 or so percent of the huggy heart coming through, therefore you can see the color of the background making its way through the huggy heart. On the bottom row, I've included some of the other variations in Spanish. Again, the graphic in the middle does not have a blue background. That background was applied by me so that the white text would be visible. So as you can see, there are many variations of this design. So no matter where you want to apply it, on a dark background, a light background, or just a white background, there's a design here that will work for you. You can print these on a t-shirt, you can print them on buttons, like a poster. Use this design in whatever way suits your needs. So that's about it. I didn't design any of these templates or the graphics we've discussed today, but I am the point person for communications and I feel comfortable with the customizable designs. So if you have any questions, just shoot me an email. And with that, I think we are going to open it up for questions. So if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat box.
All right, thanks, Johnny. And we do have some questions for you and some questions for Laura and Anna. So I'm going to start at the top. The first question, is there guidance on how many words or how much copy to include in the social media template? Now you have our example. Anna and Laura, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, it would kind of depend. I mean, it's short for the story in there because there's kind of a lot of text on it. But as you're in the template, I believe it's maybe at like a 24-point font. I just wouldn't shrink it down any more than that to try and include more. That would be my best recommendation off the top of my head, just because they already do have some text. If you do have more to say, which obviously there's a lot to say about all these topics, you'll have the post. You can write stuff in the post on the actual social platform to include more. So not an exact word count, but I would say 1 to 2 sentences can fit in there, depending on how long your sentences are.
Okay, and we're going to go back to the list, Anna, you had on the slide of all of the different topics so they can see those. We've had several questions related to that. So Johnny, I don't know who has the ball right now that can take us back to that slide.
I actually passed it to you, Lana, so you should be able to.
All
go
right,
back.
let me see if I can get to it.
There it is.
All right, so you can see we've done the 4 in the completed section. The meal distribution, food distribution, our small business support, and our vaccination efforts. We are going to be working on water and utilities, moving equity forward, childcare, technology adaptations, rental assistance, and then we do have 3 other topics that are yet to be determined. And I did see in the chat there's some interest in rental assistance. And I wanted to say we've been waiting just a little bit on the rental assistance piece because we were hoping to get some clarity from the Department of Treasury around some issues that were very important to community action agencies. And we did receive that information late Friday. So we will be getting that piece done, I would guess, in the next couple of weeks. We just didn't want to move forward talking about the future of rental assistance if we didn't know how actively engaged community action was going to be. So we will be working on that. What I like about these templates, if you're with a state association, you could tell a statewide story. So I happen to live in Iowa, and I know the community action agencies in Iowa worked very hard on rental assistance. And so the state association could take their statewide data and talk about how valuable and important that was to the citizens and the communities in Iowa. So the tools are designed in a way that it can be done nationally, it can be done at the state level, or it can be done at the local agency level. As far as the other 3 topics, I see homelessness is being suggested. If you have other ideas, please put them in the chat and we'll see if we can gather enough information to put some templates together on it.
Yeah, I was going to say, because Jason asked about that.
Yes, yep. And then the link for our marketing toolkit. Johnny, do you have that you could add in the chat?
I'm sorry, what was it that you asked for?
Susan was asking about the marketing toolkits include the color placement and use of the Huggy Heart logo.
Oh, our style guide?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. Let me look that up real quick.
Okay, Susan, we'll get that in the chat for you. So good, I'm seeing really good comments about the template that we're using and the landing page. That's great. When new templates are completed, will you send out an email reminder that the new one is in the link? I'm going to ask Denise, as we get new templates, can we send out a notice to everyone that's on this webinar?
We can do that because we can just download the attendees and just send them another follow-up, a second follow-up, because you'll get a follow-up after this webinar, but we can do a second one once we've released some more.
All right, sounds good. So you will get an email notification from us that new templates have been added.
And just for
Great
planning
suggestion,
purposes,
Rachel.
sorry, for folks on the call, just want to share too that we've been averaging about 1 new story a week as we get new stories. So for your own planning purposes, just know that's about what you can expect in terms of seeing a new one. But I'll also add a shameless plug, if Lana would permit me, that stories are always welcome. And if you have a great story from your CAA you'd like to share, I would think we would love to receive it. So.
Absolutely, especially if you have something related to these topics that are yet to be completed.
Absolutely.
So I'll put my email in the chat and you can just send me an email if you have a question or a suggestion on topics or an example of a story that we could use on any of these topics that are here. Jason, is there guidance for when specific stories should be shared, timed to certain events or national activity? You know, we may do a rental assistance piece and use one of our national messaging components on that, because we now know that agencies will be more engaged. But I think that's a decision you can make at the local level. If you're doing some kind of a food distribution or a meal distribution event, or there's a community event going on related to any of these topics, that would be the ideal time to release your local story about it. You know, we've kind of transitioned into vaccination efforts and increasing community action agencies' role in vaccination. And I think piece will be out within, I would guess, the next 3 or 4 days. So you could use that piece to promote vaccinations at the national level. You could adapt it to make it relevant to your local level and tell the story of what agencies are doing regarding vaccinations. Maybe you're providing transportation. Maybe you're putting shots in the arm. Maybe you're just producing outreach and marketing materials to help people understand vaccinations and the process and the benefits and dispel some of the myths and so on. Rachel, I'm going to put my email in the chat, and that's where you can send the story. Any other questions in the chat here? And you can also find my email address on the website too. All right, let's see. The new templates are complete. Okay, is there guidance on stories? Okay. Did I miss anything in the chat? I don't think so. I think I've got them all. We've got a couple more slides to go through. If you think of something, feel free to put it in there and we will try to answer your slide. We have some additional comments coming, or additional webinars coming. We have one on the 14th of April about adapting to remote processes, tips for improving digitized workforce. And we do this in partnership with US Digital Response. I think it's very important that you know these US Digital Response has 6,000 volunteers who have an expertise in technology, and they can help you with some technology changes at your agency for free. So this would be a good webinar to come and learn more about that. We had a 3-part series with them, and this is the 3rd piece of their series. We have a 8-part series with Melanie Lockwood Herman on disaster recovery and agency continuity planning. This one will be held on April 15th. Again, a great wealth of information. We've had several of her webinars already, and this will be the 3rd in this series. And we're working with a new partner, Center for Work Education and Employment, on a webinar May 5th regarding the pandemic continues, supporting our organization's recoveries. We like to talk about the pandemic in different stages. There was, readiness. So when the pandemic hit, community action was ready, and we went to work responding to the needs of our communities and the people who live there. Then we went into rapid response. Those programs got up and running, and oftentimes it was new programming or transitioning of services and programs. That was part of our rapid recovery or rapid response. Now we're beginning, and I'm saying just beginning, to look at the recovery stage with vaccinations rolling out. Agencies are looking at how they play a role in the vaccination process. And as we move on down the road, we're going to be into resiliency. But as we've gone through these stages, our staff and our agencies have needed some help on how do we deal with the stress? How do we deal with the workload? How do we take care of ourselves and our agencies? and Anna is going to touch on that in this particular webinar. And our last webinar, I think, is the 4th series with Melanie, and that has to do with crisis management and crisis communications, and it's on May 20th. We do have our Equity Summit coming up, April 19th through the 21st. If you haven't registered yet, please do. It is jam-packed with fabulous workshops, fabulous speakers. I'm just so impressed with the quality of this particular event at the partnership, and I encourage everyone to be a part of that. Here's our team. This is the CARES team. Erin is our team leader, and then myself as the director, Ashley as the senior associate. Also, I see we have a couple more questions in the chat. Does the partnership have any established language for sharing the community action gets vaccinated images on socials? It is a sensitive topic for some, so we want to ensure we deliver the message effectively and appropriately while aligning with NCAP. What we have, or what Johnny showed you, is what we have. So we don't have it in any other languages, and I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question exactly, David. So you might have to send me an email with some clarification so I can answer it appropriately. Does anyone know when we will receive the May's Community Action Month Toolkit? I think that's a question for Johnny.
Yeah, so I just actually responded to the chat, but the toolkit is being finalized. It's probably going to be out in about a week or so. So yeah, it'll be out soon. And when it's out, we're definitely going to send out a single issue to, you know, all of our email lists, and we'll include it in our general e-news. So if you're not on our newsletter mailing list, I will put a link in the chat so that you can subscribe.
Great. All right, so with that, I think the only other thing I have on my list is to remind you that we do have a little evaluation that we would appreciate you filling out regarding this webinar. You will get the recording and the slides and the evaluation link in a follow-up email that should come to you tomorrow or Friday, maybe Monday if we get behind, but our goal is to get it out within 2 days. Special thanks to Laura and Anna. They have been working so hard to create these templates and to get the stories in them. We so much appreciate their partnership and their expertise. And Johnny for all of his work in getting this integrated into the partnership system. It's been great to have such good partners in getting this project done. Use them often, please, as often as you can, to tell our story. This is important that your community, your state, your leaders understand that you have been active in the pandemic and you have been providing valuable services that have helped children and families who are experiencing poverty during this time. So thank you all for being community action champions. Keep it up, keep helping people, keep changing lives, and we will get through this. Thank you so much.